The judgment hall reeked of whetstone and old hatred. Chains bit into Mia's wrists as two guards dragged her forward, her bare feet scraping against cold marble. The crowd pressed in from both sides, warriors, elders, pack members who'd once nodded politely when she passed. Now they watched her like something already dead. She kept her chin level, didn't flinch when someone spat near her feet. The throne sat elevated at the far end of the hall, carved from black oak and draped in furs that probably cost more than her life. And seated there, one leg crossed over the other, expression carved from boredom and absolute authority, was Alpha King Liam. He wasn't looking at her. He was signing a document. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You're about to dive into a story that'll have your heart racing and your emotions all over the place. And for those of you who've been riding with me, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Are you team give him a second chance or team let him suffer? We'll see how you feel by the end of this one. Now, let's get into it. Mia's heart hammered, but her face betrayed nothing. She'd learned that skill early, how to hold yourself together when everything inside was breaking apart. The head elder, a silver-haired woman named Margaret with eyes like sharpened flint, stepped forward holding a scroll. Her voice rang through the hall, crisp and unforgiving. Mia Castellan. Omega. Wolfless. You stand accused of theft of sacred pack relics, conspiracy to weaken our borders through forbidden magic, and treason against the crown. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone shouted, "Exile her." Another voice, "She should hang." Mia's fingers curled into fists behind her back, the only outward sign of the storm building inside her chest. She wanted to scream that she'd never touched those relics, that the evidence was planted, that the real traitor still walked free among them, smiling. But what was the point? No one would believe in Omega, especially not one without a wolf. Margaret's gaze swept over her with clinical detachment. The accused has no defender. No witnesses speak in her favor. The evidence is conclusive. She turned toward the throne, bowing slightly. Your Majesty, the council awaits your judgment. Finally, Liam looked up. His eyes were dark green, sharp enough to cut. Handsome in a brutal, uncompromising way. The kind of face that could start wars or end them with a single command. He studied Mia for exactly 3 seconds, and in those 3 seconds, she felt the full weight of his indifference. She was nothing to him. Less than nothing. Guilty, he said simply, as if pronouncing the weather. No hesitation. No curiosity. Mia's knees almost buckled, but she locked them. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Liam leaned back in his throne, fingers drumming once against the armrest. Send her to the Coldwater work camp. Indefinite sentence. She can make herself useful there. He waved a hand dismissively. Next case. That was it. No trial. No questions. No chance to defend herself. The guards yanked her backward. The crowd erupted in approval, cheers, jeers, a few howls of mockery. Mia caught a glimpse of a woman in the third row, someone she'd once helped carry groceries during a storm. The woman looked away. As they dragged her toward the side exit, Mia turned her head one last time. Liam was already reading another document. His beta, a broad-shouldered man named Ethan, leaned in to whisper something, and Liam nodded absently. He'd already forgotten her. But Mia hadn't forgotten him. Because 6 months ago, before the accusations, before the chains, she'd felt something impossible during the Harvest Moon ceremony. A pull. A burn low in her chest that made her wolf, silent for 23 years, stir for the first time. She'd looked across the bonfire and seen him. Alpha King Liam. Untouchable. Unreachable. And she'd known, with a certainty that terrified her, that he was her mate. She'd told no one. How could she? An Omega claiming the Alpha King as her fated mate would be laughed out of the territory, or worse, accused of delusion. Of witchcraft. So she'd buried it deep. And now, as the guards shoved her into a transport wagon that smelled of rust and despair, she wondered if the moon goddess had a cruel sense of humor. Because the man who was supposed to be her other half had just condemned her to a living death. And he didn't even care enough to remember her name. The wagon door slammed shut. Mia sat in the darkness, chains clinking softly as the wheels began to roll. Outside, she could hear the pack returning to their lives. Laughter. Conversation. The world moving on. Inside her chest, something ancient and patient opened one eye. It had been sleeping for a very long time. But imprisonment, it turned out, was an excellent alarm clock. The Coldwater work camp wasn't a prison in the traditional sense. It was worse. Prisons had walls, guards, structure. Coldwater was a sprawling labor site carved into the northern mountains where the snow never fully melted and the wind had teeth. Omegas and low-ranking wolves worked the quarries, hauling stone for the kingdom's endless construction projects. The strong survived. The weak disappeared into the mountain's shadow, forgotten. Mia arrived at dawn, wrists still raw from the chains. The camp overseer, a wiry man named Carl with a scar splitting his left eyebrow, looked her up and down with the interest one might give a broken tool. "Wolfless?" he asked. "Yes," he snorted. "You'll last a week. Maybe two if you're lucky." He jerked his chin toward a cluster of ramshackle cabins. Bunk 7. Work starts at sunrise. Miss a shift, miss a meal. Cause trouble, you'll wish you'd stayed in the judgment hall. Mia took her assigned bedroll and tin cup without a word. Bunk 7 housed 9 other women, all Omegas, all carrying the haunted look of people who'd learned that hope was a luxury they couldn't afford. A few glanced at her when she entered. Most didn't bother. She claimed a corner spot near a drafty window and sat down. The woman on the next bedroll, maybe 30, with brown hair tied back in a fraying braid, studied her for a moment before speaking. "I'm Leah," she said quietly. "Been here for years." "Mia, what did they get you for?" "Treason. Theft. Conspiracy." Mia's voice was flat. "Take your pick." Leah's expression didn't change. "Did you do it?" "No. Doesn't matter here. Guilty or innocent, we all haul the same rocks." Leah pulled a thin blanket over her shoulders. "My advice? Keep your head down. Don't make friends. Don't trust the guards. And whatever you do, don't let them see you cry." Mia nodded. She hadn't cried in the judgment hall. She wouldn't cry here either. The first week was survival. Every morning, Mia woke before dawn to the clang of the bell. She ate watery porridge that tasted like paste and followed the line of workers to the quarry. Her job was simple: load broken stone into carts. Lift, carry, dump. Repeat until your arms went numb and your back screamed. She was wolfless, which meant she lacked the enhanced strength of her peers. What took them 1 trip took her 3. The guards noticed. They always noticed. "Move faster, Castellan." Carl barked on the 3rd day, his whip cracking near her feet. "You think the Alpha King's buildings raise themselves?" Mia gritted her teeth and kept moving. At night, she collapsed onto her bedroll, too exhausted to dream. But on the 8th night, something shifted. She woke in darkness, heart pounding, skin slick with sweat. The cabin was silent except for the soft breathing of the other women. But inside her chest, beneath her ribs, she felt it. A pulse. Faint. Steady. Like a second heartbeat that wasn't entirely her own. She pressed a hand to her sternum, breath catching. "What is that?" It had been there before years ago, when she was a child. A warmth she couldn't explain. Her mother had felt it too, once, and told her to never speak of it. Some gifts, her mother had whispered, are too dangerous to name. Then her mother died, and the warmth faded. But now, in this godforsaken place, it was waking up. By the 3rd week, Mia had learned the rhythms of Coldwater. She learned which guards accepted bribes and which ones enjoyed cruelty for its own sake. She learned that Leah had been sent here for insubordination, which really meant she'd refused to marry the beta her alpha had chosen. She learned that 2 women in bunk 7 were sick with fever, and no one cared enough to get them medicine. She also learned that the other workers had started watching her. Not with hostility, with curiosity. Because despite being wolfless, despite being smaller and weaker, Mia never missed a shift. Never complained. Never broke. One evening, as they lined up for dinner, a young woman named Ivy, barely 19, with wide hazel eyes, sidled up beside her. "How do you do it?" Ivy whispered. "Do what?" "Keep going. You don't have a wolf. You should have collapsed by now." Ivy glanced around nervously. "Some of the others are saying you're different." Mia's jaw tightened. "I'm not different. I'm just stubborn." Ivy looked like she wanted to say more, but the line moved forward and the moment passed. That night, alone in her corner, Mia stared at the ceiling and wondered if Ivy was right. Because the truth was, she should have collapsed. Her body should have given out. But every time she felt herself faltering, that warmth in her chest flared just a little brighter, lending her strength she shouldn't have. It wasn't a wolf. It was something else. Meanwhile, 300 miles south, Alpha King Liam sat in his study reviewing reports. Trade routes. Border patrols. A dispute between 2 packs over hunting grounds. His beta, Ethan, stood across from him, arms crossed. The Coldwater overseer sent the monthly log. 15 workers. 3 desertions. 2 deaths. Liam didn't look up. Within expected parameters. One of the new arrivals is the Omega from last month's trial. Mia Castellan. Liam's pen paused for half a second. Then he continued writing. "And? She's still alive. Good for her." Ethan frowned. "You don't remember her, do you?" "Should I?" Liam set the pen down, finally meeting his beta's gaze. "We process dozens of cases a month, Ethan. I can't be expected to memorize every face." She didn't defend herself. Didn't say a word. Then she was guilty. Or she knew no one would believe her. Liam's expression hardened. "Are you questioning my judgment?" "No, Your Majesty." Ethan's tone was careful. "I'm questioning whether we're missing something." Liam leaned back in his chair, irritation flickering across his features. The truth was, he didn't remember her face clearly. Just a vague impression of someone small, quiet, unremarkable. An Omega accused by multiple witnesses. The evidence had been clear. And yet, there was something. A nagging sensation at the edge of his mind, like a word he couldn't quite recall. He shook it off. "If there's nothing else, I have a council meeting in an hour." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Of course." As the beta left, Liam returned to his reports. But for reasons he couldn't name, his thoughts kept drifting north. To cold mountains. And a prisoner whose name he'd already forgotten. The first sign that something was wrong came on a Tuesday. Mia was hauling her 14th load of the day when the quarry foreman, a hulking man named Dane with fists like hammers, suddenly stopped mid-sentence. He'd been berating a young Omega for dropping a stone, but his words died in his throat. He staggered backward, hand flying to his chest. His face went pale. I can't breathe." 3 workers rushed forward, but before they reached him, Dane collapsed to his knees, gasping. His eyes were wide, terrified, fixed on something no one else could see. "The girl," he whispered, voice cracking. "The girl by the river. I left her there. I left her too." He vomited. Then he started crying. A 40-year-old man who'd ruled the quarry with an iron fist for 6 years, sobbing like a child in front of everyone. The guards had to carry him away. Work stopped for 20 minutes while everyone stood in stunned silence, whispering, trying to make sense of what they'd just witnessed. Mia stood apart from the others, heart hammering. Because when Dane had collapsed, she'd felt it. That warmth in her chest had flared, bright and sudden, like a match striking in the dark. And for just a moment, she'd known things. Seen them. A flash of memory that wasn't hers. A young woman's face, tears streaming, begging. A riverbank at night. Dane walking away. Move along, Carl shouted, whip cracking. Back to work. Nothing to see here. But Mia's hands were shaking as she lifted the next stone. What just happened? 2 days later, it happened again. This time, the target was a guard named Kyle, a man who'd made a hobby of accidentally brushing against the female workers, whose leers made everyone's skin crawl. He was making his rounds when he suddenly froze mid-step, eyes going glassy. No, he breathed. No, I didn't. It wasn't. Then he screamed. Not a shout. A scream. High and broken and utterly inhuman. He clawed at his own face, leaving bloody trails down his cheeks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please, I'm sorry. 4 guards had to wrestle him to the ground. By the time they dragged him away, he was catatonic, muttering apologies to people who weren't there. The camp descended into chaos. Rumors spread like wildfire. A curse. A plague. Divine punishment. Some said the mountain itself was haunted, angry at the blood spilled in its quarries. Others whispered about witchcraft. That night, in Bunk 7, the women huddled together in terrified clusters. It's judgment, Leah said quietly, staring at the ceiling. The moon goddess is finally punishing them for what they've done. Or something worse is coming, another woman muttered. Ivy sat near Mia's bedroll, knees pulled to her chest. Do you think it'll happen to all of them? The bad ones? Mia didn't answer. Because she knew the truth. It wasn't the mountain. It wasn't the moon goddess. It was her. The warmth in her chest had become a presence now, constant, aware, waiting. Every time someone near her committed an act of cruelty or harbored a deeply buried guilt, she felt it stir, felt it reach. She didn't control it, but it responded to her emotions. Her anger, her grief, her desperate, silent wish that the people who hurt others would finally feel what they'd done. And now they were. One by one, the guilty were being forced to confront their sins. Not through violence, through truth. Mia sat in the darkness, hands pressed to her chest, trying to make it stop. But the power didn't listen. It had been sealed for 23 years, locked away by her mother's dying wish. Never let them see, her mother had gasped, blood on her lips. Never let them know what you are. But seals, like chains, could only hold for so long. And Coldwater had finally broken hers. On the 7th day after Dane's collapse, Carl summoned Mia to his office. The overseer's quarters were barely warmer than the cabin's, furnished with a battered desk and a chair that creaked ominously. Carl sat behind the desk, eyes bloodshot, a bottle of whiskey half empty at his elbow. He looked at her for a long time. You, he said finally. You're the reason. Mia's pulse spiked, but she kept her face neutral. I don't know what you mean. Don't play games with me, girl. Carl leaned forward, voice dropping to a hiss. Every incident. Every collapse. Every guard losing their goddamned mind. It started the week you arrived. That's coincidence. Is it? His hand drifted toward the whip on his desk. Because I've been running this camp for 8 years, and nothing like this has ever happened. Then you show up wolfless, quiet, nothing, and suddenly my men are screaming about ghosts. Mia met his gaze evenly. Maybe your men have guilty consciences. Carl's face went red. He shot to his feet, the chair clattering backward. You think you're clever? You think. He stopped. His eyes widened. The color drained from his face like water from a broken dam. No, he whispered. No, not the boy. I didn't mean, I was just following orders. I was. Mia felt the warmth surge. Carl stumbled backward, hands flying to his head. Visions crashed over him, a child's face, tears and terror, a locked room, screams no one answered. Guilt he'd buried for 15 years, clawing its way back to the surface with razor-sharp teeth. He collapsed against the wall, sobbing. Mia stood frozen, her own heart racing. She hadn't meant to do that. But she also didn't regret it. You're a monster, Carl choked out, tears streaming. You're... No, Mia said quietly. I'm just the mirror. She turned and walked out. By morning, news of Carl's breakdown had reached the capital. Ethan brought the report to Liam during breakfast, sliding the paper across the table with barely concealed concern. Coldwater is falling apart, Ethan said. 5 incidents in 10 days. The overseer is incoherent. Half the guards are requesting transfers. Liam scanned the report, frown deepening. What's the cause? No one knows. Some kind of psychological contagion, maybe. Or a curse. Ethan hesitated. The only common thread is that it's affecting people with histories of violence or abuse. Karma isn't a contagion, Ethan. Then what do you call it when a dozen men suddenly lose their minds within days of each other? Liam set the paper down, jaw tight. Send an investigator. Someone discreet. I want answers, not speculation. Already done. Zane is en route. Ethan paused. There's one more thing. What? The incident started the same week a new prisoner arrived. The Omega from your trial. Mia Castellan. There it was again. That name. Liam felt something stir in the back of his mind, a flicker of recognition he couldn't quite place. You think she's responsible? I think it's suspicious. Liam stood, moving to the window. Outside, the capital sprawled in the morning light, orderly and prosperous. Everything he'd built. Everything he protected. If she's causing this, deal with it, he said coldly. I don't care how. But as Ethan left, Liam found himself staring at his own reflection in the glass. And for the first time in years, he wondered if he'd made a mistake. Zane arrived at Coldwater 3 days later. He was everything an investigator should be: observant, methodical, and utterly devoid of sympathy. Tall and lean with silver-streaked black hair, he moved through the camp like a shadow, watching everything, missing nothing. The workers learned quickly to avoid his gaze. But Mia knew the moment he arrived that he was looking for her. She felt it in the way his eyes lingered when she passed. The way he questioned Leah and Ivy about the new girl. The way he stood outside bunk 7 at night, just watching. On his second evening, he finally approached her. Mia was alone by the water pump, washing stone dust from her hands, when his reflection appeared in the metal basin. Mia Castellan, Zane said. Not a question. A statement. She straightened slowly, water dripping from her fingers. That's me. I'm here on behalf of the Alpha King to investigate the recent disturbances. His voice was smooth, clinical. I'd like to ask you a few questions. I don't know anything about what's happening. Strange. Because every incident has occurred within 100 yards of wherever you happen to be working that day. He tilted his head. Coincidence. Mia's pulse quickened, but she kept her expression blank. Maybe the guilty just can't hide anymore. Zane's eyes narrowed. Careful, Omega. Accusations of witchcraft carry severe penalties. I'm not a witch. Then what are you? The question hung in the cold air between them. Mia met his gaze steadily. I'm exactly what your king decided I was. A prisoner. Nothing more. For a long moment, Zane studied her. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled, thin and humorless. You're lying, he said quietly. But I'll figure out what you're hiding. I always do. He walked away, leaving Mia standing alone in the gathering darkness. Her hands were shaking. That night, the power flared stronger than ever. Mia woke gasping, the warmth in her chest blazing like a star about to go supernova. The cabin walls seemed to pulse with light only she could see. Threads of energy stretched out from her body, connecting to every person in the camp, guilt, shame, fear, regret, all of it flowing toward her like rivers to the sea. Too much. It's too much. She stumbled outside, desperate for air. The camp was silent under a brittle moon. Snow crunched beneath her bare feet. She made it to the edge of the clearing before her knees gave out. Stop, she whispered, pressing both hands to her chest. Please stop. But the power didn't stop. It was hungry. Hungry for truth. For justice. For all the lies buried beneath this mountain to finally surface. And then she felt him. A presence unlike any other. Not guilt. Not shame. A bond. Mia's head snapped up, breath catching. 300 miles away, in the capital, Alpha King Liam sat bolt upright in bed. His chest burned. Not pain, something else. Something primal and undeniable, like his soul had just recognized a missing piece of itself. He pressed a hand to his sternum, confused and furious. What the hell is this? The sensation pulsed once, twice, then faded. But it left behind an ache that wouldn't quit. By the end of the week, Coldwater was in chaos. 2 more guards had broken down. One confessed to embezzlement. Another admitted to framing an innocent man for murder 5 years ago. The workers watched with a mixture of terror and vindication as the people who'd tormented them finally faced their own demons. And through it all, Mia felt herself changing. The power wasn't just revealing truth anymore. It was making her stronger. She could work twice as long without tiring. Her senses sharpened. She could hear conversations 3 cabins away, smell snow coming hours before it fell. Her reflexes quickened. It was as if the seal breaking hadn't just released her power. It had released her. The real her. The one her mother had hidden away. Leah noticed first. "You're different," she said one evening as they sat outside bunk 7, sharing a piece of stale bread. "You look, I don't know, taller? Stronger." "I'm the same," Mia lied. "No, you're not." Leah's voice dropped to a whisper. "And whatever you're doing to those bastards, keep doing it. They deserve everything they're getting." Mia looked at her friend, really looked. Leah had been here for years. For years of abuse, exhaustion, hopelessness. And yet here she was, still fighting. Still kind. "What if I can't control it?" Mia asked quietly. "Then maybe it's not meant to be controlled." Leah squeezed her hand. "Maybe it's meant to burn everything down." Zane's report arrived on Liam's desk 6 days after he'd left for Coldwater. The Alpha King read it twice, his expression growing darker with each line. "The disturbances are localized around the prisoner Mia Castellan. No physical evidence of witchcraft or forbidden magic, but the correlation is undeniable. Recommend immediate removal and interrogation under controlled conditions. Subject displays unusual composure and may possess latent abilities we don't yet understand." Liam set the report down, jaw clenched. Ethan stood across from him, arms crossed. "So? What do you want to do? Bring her here? To the capital?" "Yes. If she's causing this, I want to know how. And why." Liam's eyes were hard. "And if she's a threat to this kingdom, I'll deal with her personally." Ethan hesitated. "Your Majesty, what if Zane's wrong? What if she's innocent and we're—" She was convicted by a council of 12 witnesses. Witnesses who might have lied. Liam's fist slammed down on the desk. "Enough. I made my judgment. I don't need you second-guessing every decision." Ethan held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded stiffly. "I'll send the transport." As the beta left, Liam stood and moved to the window. That burning sensation in his chest had returned 3 times since the first night. Each time stronger. Each time leaving him more unsettled. He didn't understand it. Didn't want to understand it. But some primal part of him, the wolf he kept carefully leashed, was screaming that something was wrong. That he'd made a terrible mistake. That the prisoner he dismissed without a second thought was far more important than he'd ever imagined. He shook his head, dismissing the thought. Omegas didn't have power. They were the weakest link in the pack hierarchy. Useful for menial labor and little else. Whatever was happening at Coldwater, there had to be a rational explanation. And when Mia Castellan arrived, he'd find it. The transport came for Mia at dawn. She was dragged from her bunk without warning, without explanation. The other women watched in silence as guards clamped silver-lined cuffs around her wrists, the kind designed to suppress wolf abilities. They didn't know the cuffs would do nothing to her, because she'd never had a wolf to suppress. "Where are you taking her?" Ivy cried out, stepping forward. A guard shoved her back. "Capital. Alpha King's orders." Leah caught Mia's eye as they led her past. Her friend's expression was fierce, proud. "Burn it all down," her eyes said. Mia was loaded into an armored wagon. The doors slammed shut. Through the barred window, she watched Coldwater disappear into the distance. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something else entirely. Anticipation. Because the Alpha King had dismissed her once, forgotten her, condemned her without a second glance. But now he was bringing her back. And this time, when he looked at her, she wouldn't be silent. This time, he would see her. And when her power finally revealed the truth about the lies, about the betrayal, about the bond he'd been too blind to recognize, it wouldn't be her who broke. It would be him. The wagon rolled south through the snow. Toward the capital. Toward the Alpha King. Toward a reckoning neither of them was prepared for. The capital was nothing like Mia remembered. Or maybe she'd just forgotten how to see beauty while drowning in survival. The wagon rattled through streets lined with stone buildings, past markets bursting with color and sound, through squares where children played and couples walked hand in hand. Life. Normal, untouched, blissfully ignorant life. Mia watched it all through the barred window, her reflection ghostly against the glass. She looked different now. Sharper. Leaner. Her eyes held something they hadn't before, a weight, unknowing. The kind that comes from being broken down and rebuilt into something the world doesn't have a name for yet. The wagon stopped in front of the palace. Mia's breath caught despite herself. The building rose like a mountain of white stone and dark timber, flags snapping in the wind, guards stationed at every entrance. Power made architecture. Authority carved into every line. The door opened. Rough hands hauled her out. "Move," a guard commanded. They led her through a side entrance, down corridors lined with portraits of past Alpha Kings, stern faces, hard eyes, the weight of generations pressing down. She felt their painted gazes follow her, judging. Omega. Prisoner. Nothing. But the warmth in her chest pulsed steadily, and she knew that assessment was wrong. She was led to a holding chamber, small and sparse. A single chair. Stone walls. No windows. They locked her inside without a word. Mia sat down and waited. Liam stood in his private study, staring at the report for the 20th time. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, watching his alpha with barely concealed concern. "She's here," the beta said quietly. "I know. Are you going to see her now?" Liam didn't answer immediately. That burning sensation in his chest had intensified the moment the transport entered the capital. Now it was a constant presence, an ache he couldn't explain, couldn't dismiss. He'd tried everything. Checked for curses. Consulted the pack physician. Even considered that he might be coming down with something. But deep down, he knew. This wasn't illness. This was something far more dangerous. "Bring her to the throne room," Liam said finally. "I want the council present. If she's going to explain herself, she'll do it in front of witnesses." Ethan's jaw tightened. "And if she can't explain? If whatever's happening to her isn't something she controls, then we'll deal with it accordingly." "Meaning?" Liam turned, his expression carved from ice. "Meaning I will do whatever is necessary to protect this kingdom, even if that means ending a threat before it grows." Ethan held his gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded and left. Alone, Liam pressed a hand to his chest. The burning flared. "What are you?" he thought. "And why do I feel like I'm about to lose something I didn't know I had?" 20 minutes later, Mia was brought into the throne room. It was exactly as she remembered. Grand. Imposing. Designed to make anyone standing in its center feel insignificant. But this time, Mia didn't feel small. The council sat in their elevated seats, 12 wolves who'd condemned her without hesitation. Margaret, the head elder, watched her with cold calculation. Others whispered behind their hands. And on the throne, carved from shadow and authority, sat Liam. Their eyes met. The world lurched. Mia felt it like a physical blow, the bond she'd buried, the connection she'd tried to ignore, suddenly roaring to life with the force of a wildfire. Her wolf, silent for 23 years, stirred. Not weakly, not tentatively, powerfully. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that Liam felt it too, because his entire body went rigid. His eyes widened. Color drained from his face. Mate. The word echoed in both their minds simultaneously. For 5 seconds, neither moved. The council noticed nothing. They were too busy shuffling papers, preparing their questions. But Ethan noticed. The beta's eyes narrowed, flicking between his alpha and the prisoner. Liam recovered first, slamming his expression back into neutrality. But his knuckles were white where they gripped the throne's armrests. Mia Castellan, Margaret began, her voice cutting through the tension. You've been brought before us again due to... I know why I'm here, Mia interrupted. Silence crashed down. No one interrupted the head elder. Margaret's eyes flashed. You will speak when spoken to, Omega. I'm not an Omega. The room erupted. Voices overlapped, shock, outrage, confusion. A counselor near the back stood, pointing. She's lost her mind. The isolation. I never had a wolf, Mia continued, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. So I couldn't be ranked. You assumed I was Omega because I was weak. Because I was convenient to dismiss. Liam leaned forward. Then what are you? His voice was deadly quiet. Mia met his gaze. And in that moment, she made a choice. No more hiding. No more silence. I'm a Veritas. The word fell like a stone into still water. Ripples of confusion spread through the council. A what? Someone muttered. But Margaret's face had gone ashen. That's impossible. The Veritas bloodline died out a century ago. Clearly not. Mia's voice was steady now, strengthened by truth. My mother was the last. She sealed my power when I was a child to protect me. But seals break. Especially under pressure. Liam stood. The movement was slow, predatory. Veritas. Truth seers. Truth bringers, Mia corrected. We don't just see lies. We make people face them. Every buried guilt, every hidden sin, every truth they've run from, we drag it into the light. Understanding dawned across the council's faces. Horror followed close behind. Cold water, Ethan breathed. The guards. The breakdowns. They earned every second of their suffering, Mia said, no apology in her tone. I didn't choose my targets. The power responds to guilt. To injustice. Her eyes locked on Liam. To lies. The Alpha King descended the steps slowly, each footfall echoing in the cavernous space. He stopped 10 feet from her. If you're a Veritas, he said quietly, then prove it. Mia smiled. It wasn't kind. Gladly. She turned to face the council, and the warmth in her chest exploded outward. The room lit up with invisible threads, connections between every person present, their secrets laid bare like a map only she could read. She saw Margaret's embezzlement. Counselor Dane's affair. Elena's forged credentials. Layer after layer of corruption, selfishness, lies. And at the center of it all, the biggest lie of the entire trial. The relics I was accused of stealing, Mia said, her voice ringing with power. I never touched them. Because they were never stolen. They were moved. By someone who needed a scapegoat to cover their own crimes. She pointed at a counselor in the third row, a thin man named Aaron with nervous eyes. You took them to pay gambling debts. And when your creditors threatened to expose you, you planted evidence in my quarters and paid 3 witnesses to testify against me. Aaron shot to his feet. That's absurd. I would never. Mia's eyes flared gold. The power struck. Aaron's words died in his throat. His face went white. Then, to the horror of everyone watching, he began to confess. I took them, he choked out, tears streaming. I took the relics. I owed money, so much money. They were going to kill me. I needed someone to blame. She was nobody. Wolfless. I thought it wouldn't matter. The room exploded into chaos. Counselors shouted. Guards moved forward. Margaret demanded order. But Mia only had eyes for Liam. The Alpha King stood frozen, his expression a war between shock, fury, and something else. Something that looked almost like pain. You condemned me, Mia said quietly, just loud enough for him to hear beneath the din. You didn't ask questions. Didn't investigate. You looked at me for 3 seconds and decided I was guilty because it was easy. Liam's jaw clenched. I followed the evidence. You followed lies. Because you didn't care enough to look deeper. She stepped closer, and the bond between them flared so bright it hurt. And now you know what I am. What you threw away. His eyes widened as realization crashed over him. No, he breathed. Yes. Mia's voice cracked, just slightly. I'm your mate, Liam. I felt it 6 months ago. I've carried it alone this entire time. And when I was dragged before you in chains, when I needed you most, you didn't even see me. The room had gone silent. Everyone stared. Ethan's mouth had fallen open. Margaret looked like she might faint. And Liam. Liam looked like a man watching his entire world collapse. You're lying, he said, but there was no conviction in it. I'm a Veritas, Mia said softly. I can't lie. And neither can you. Not anymore. Not to me. She let the power flow between them, just a thread, and Liam gasped as his own truth rose to the surface. He felt it. The bond. The recognition. The certainty that this woman, this prisoner he'd dismissed, forgotten, condemned, was his other half. His mate. And he'd destroyed her. Mia, he started, reaching out. She stepped back. No. You made your choice. You chose indifference. Chose your pride over justice. Chose comfort over truth. Her voice was steady, but her eyes blazed. And now you get to live with it. She turned to the guards. Take me back to my cell. I'm done here. Wait, Liam's voice cracked. You can't just. I can. I am. Mia looked back over her shoulder. You wanted proof, Alpha King? You got it. I'm innocent. I'm powerful. And I'm your fated mate. She smiled, and it was devastating. And I reject you. The words echoed in the throne room like a death knell. Liam staggered as if physically struck. His hand flew to his chest. The bond, newly recognized, freshly felt, screamed in protest. You can't, he gasped. The bond can survive rejection. It'll hurt. Badly. But I'll endure it. Mia's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Because pain with freedom is better than comfort in chains. She let the guards lead her away. The last thing she saw was Liam on his knees, one hand pressed to his chest, his face a mask of anguish. And she felt no satisfaction in it. Only the terrible, hollow ache of a bond she'd wanted desperately, and had just destroyed to save herself. Mia didn't return to a cell. She was taken to guest quarters. The irony wasn't lost on her. 12 hours ago, she'd been a prisoner condemned to die in obscurity. Now she occupied a room with actual windows, a real bed, and furniture that wasn't falling apart. A servant had even brought her clean clothes and warm food. All because she'd revealed she was the Alpha King's mate. The mate he'd condemned. The mate who'd just rejected him in front of his entire council. Mia sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her hands. They were shaking. Had been shaking since she'd walked out of that throne room. I reject you. 3 words. That's all it had taken. 3 words to destroy something sacred. Something most wolves spent their entire lives searching for. The bond was still there. She could feel it like a wound that wouldn't close. But she'd severed the active connection, the part that would have drawn them together, made them whole. Now it just hurt. A constant, throbbing ache beneath her ribs. She pressed a hand to her chest and let herself cry. Not for him. Not really. For the life she'd imagined when she'd first felt the bond. For the hope that had flickered in her heart that maybe, just maybe, she'd found someone who would see her. Value her. Choose her. Instead, she'd found a man who'd looked right through her. And that hurt more than any physical wound ever could. 3 floors below, Liam was destroying his study. The desk went first, flipped with a roar that shook the walls. Papers exploded into the air like startled birds. The chair followed, slamming into the bookshelf hard enough to crack the wood. Ethan stood in the doorway, silent, letting his alpha rage. Because there was nothing to say. Nothing that would make this better. Liam braced himself against the window, breathing hard. His chest felt like someone had reached inside and torn something vital out. The bond, his mate Bond, screamed in protest, demanding he go to her, fix this, make her take it back. But how? How did you undo 6 months of cruelty? Weeks of dismissal? A condemnation built on lies he'd been too arrogant to question? I didn't know, Liam said hoarsely. I didn't feel it. I know, Ethan said quietly. She was right there. In chains. And his voice broke. I didn't even look at her. I know. Liam turned, eyes blazing. Don't just stand there agreeing with me. Tell me I'm not, tell me this isn't. What do you want me to say? Ethan's voice was gentle but firm. That you didn't make a mistake? You did. A massive one. That you can fix this? I don't know if you can. He stepped into the room. But I do know that destroying furniture won't help. Liam laughed, harsh and broken. She rejected me, Ethan. My mate rejected me. Do you know what that means? It means she values herself more than a bond with someone who hurt her. The words hit like a physical blow. Liam sank into the one remaining chair, head in his hands. What do I do? You earn her back. Ethan crossed his arms. If that's even possible. But first, you need to fix the mess that got you here. What mess? The council. The trial. The corruption. Ethan's voice hardened. Aaron confessed in front of everyone. That means your justice system failed. Publicly. Spectacularly. You need to address that before you even think about approaching Mia again. Liam looked up, and for the first time in years, Ethan saw genuine fear in his alpha's eyes. What if she never forgives me? Then you live with it, Ethan said simply. Like she's been living with your judgment. The council met in emergency session at midnight. Every member was present, though Aaron's seat remained conspicuously empty. He'd been arrested immediately after his confession, taken to the dungeons to await formal sentencing. Liam sat on his throne, but there was no comfort in it now. Only wait. Margaret stood to speak first. Your Majesty, this situation is unprecedented. A veritas in our midst. A false conviction. A mate bond revealed and rejected. She cleared her throat. We must determine how to proceed. How to proceed? Liam's voice was dangerously quiet. We proceed by admitting we failed. That I failed. Murmurs rippled through the council. An innocent woman was convicted because we trusted liars over truth. Because I didn't ask enough questions. Because it was easier to condemn an Omega than investigate a counselor. Liam stood. Aaron will face maximum punishment for his crimes. But the responsibility ultimately lies with me. Your Majesty, another counselor interjected nervously, admitting fault publicly could undermine your authority. My authority is already undermined. Liam's voice cracked like thunder. I condemned my own mate to a labor camp. Do you think that inspires confidence? Do you think the people will trust a king who can't even recognize his own other half? Silence. Mia Castellan will be fully pardoned, Liam continued. Her name cleared. Reparations paid. And every case from the past year will be reviewed for similar oversights. Margaret nodded slowly. And what of her status as your mate? Liam's expression shuddered. That is between her and me. The council has no say in matters of the heart. But even as he said it, he felt the bond pulse weakly, a reminder of what he'd lost. What he'd thrown away without even knowing its value. Mia woke to knocking. She sat up groggily, disoriented. Pale morning light filtered through the windows. How long had she slept? Come in, she called. The door opened to reveal a woman she didn't recognize, mid-30s, auburn hair, kind eyes. She wore the formal robes of a court official. Miss Castellan, I'm Charlotte, the King's liaison. I've been assigned to assist you during your transition. Transition to what? Charlotte's smile was sympathetic. To freedom. The Alpha King has issued a full pardon. All charges dropped. Your name cleared. She paused. You're free to go wherever you wish. Mia's breath caught. Just like that. Just like that. Freedom. She'd dreamed of it for months. Fought for it. Survived for it. So why did it feel so hollow? There's more, Charlotte continued gently. The king has requested an audience. He wants to speak with you privately. You're under no obligation to accept, but… No. Charlotte blinked. No, I don't want to see him. Mia stood, wrapping her arms around herself. Tell him I need time. How much time? Forever, Mia thought. But what she said was, I don't know. Charlotte nodded. I understand. Is there anything you need? Anywhere you'd like to go. Mia thought of Coldwater. Of Leah and Ivy and the other women still trapped there. I want to go back, she said. To Coldwater. Charlotte's eyes widened. Miss Castellan, that's a labor camp. You're free now. You don't have to. I know. But there are people there who helped me. Who need to know that fighting back is possible. Mia met her gaze. And I'm not leaving them behind. 2 days later, Mia stood outside Coldwater again. But this time, she arrived in a royal carriage. This time, no chains bound her wrists. This time, she held the king's official decree declaring the camp's closure and the release of all prisoners convicted on insufficient evidence. Carl met her at the gate. The overseer looked like he'd aged a decade, hollow-eyed, trembling, broken by the truths her power had forced him to face. You, he whispered. You came back. I came back, Mia confirmed. She handed him the decree. Read it. Then open the gates. His hands shook as he unrolled the parchment. As his eyes scanned the words, color drained from his face. You did this? The king did this. I just reminded him what justice looks like. Within the hour, the camp was in chaos, the good kind. Prisoners gathered in the yard as the decree was read aloud. Women wept. Men shouted in disbelief. Guards looked on uncertainly, unsure if they still had authority. Leah found Mia in the crowd and threw her arms around her. I knew it, she sobbed. I knew you were special. I knew you'd burn it all down. I didn't do it alone, Mia said softly. You all survived this. You all fought. This is your victory too. Ivy appeared next, eyes shining. What happens now? Now, Mia smiled. Now you go home. Rebuild your lives. Be free. What about you? Mia's smile faded. I don't know yet. Because that was the truth. She was free. Pardoned. Vindicated. But she was also bonded to a man she couldn't forgive, carrying a power she barely understood, and facing a future that suddenly felt terrifyingly open. Back in the capital, Liam stood alone in his chambers. A report sat on his desk, Coldwater officially closed, all prisoners released. Mia had overseen it personally. She'd gone back to the place that had nearly broken her, freed everyone, and then disappeared. She wasn't at the camp. Wasn't in the capital. No one knew where she'd gone. And the bond, weak but persistent, gave him no answers. Only ache. Ethan entered without knocking. The northern scouts reported a disturbance. Rogue wolves gathering near the border. Liam barely heard him. She's gone. I know. I don't even know where to look. Then don't. Ethan's voice was firm. Let her go, Liam. She earned her freedom. Don't chase her unless she wants to be found. She's my mate. She's a person first. And right now, she needs space more than she needs you. Liam closed his eyes. The bond throbbed. Somewhere out there, Mia was alive, breathing, existing in a world that no longer included him. And it was his own fault. What if I never see her again? He whispered. Ethan's hand landed on his shoulder. Then you learn to live with the consequences of your choices. Like she had to. The words were kind. They were also devastating. Because Liam finally understood. This wasn't just about a rejected bond. It was about a woman he'd failed so completely that she'd chosen loneliness over his love. And there was no decree, no apology, no amount of power that could undo that. Mia found refuge in the last place anyone would think to look. The Forgotten Woods. It was a stretch of ancient forest 3 days' travel east of the capital, where the trees grew so thick that sunlight barely penetrated and the air hummed with old magic. Most wolves avoided it, too wild, too untamed, too full of things that didn't follow pack law. Perfect. She'd built a small shelter near a stream, nothing fancy. Just 4 walls and a roof to keep the rain out. Every morning she woke to birdsong. Every evening she watched the sun set through the canopy. And slowly, achingly, she began to heal. The bond still hurt. Every day it whispered that something was missing, that she was incomplete. But pain, she'd learned, was something you could live with if you had to. And she had to. Because going back to Liam meant forgiving the unforgivable. Meant accepting that he'd failed her in the moment she'd needed him most. But he didn't know, a small voice whispered. He couldn't feel the bond. Doesn't matter, Mia said aloud to the empty forest. He should have looked closer. Should have asked questions. The trees didn't argue. On the 7th day, her power flared differently. She was gathering firewood when the warmth in her chest pulsed, not with pain or warning, but with direction. Like a compass suddenly finding north. Mia froze. Someone was coming. Someone who carried a truth that needed revealing. She set down the wood and waited. 10 minutes later, a figure emerged from the trees. Not Liam. Ethan. The beta looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, clothes dusty from travel. He stopped when he saw her, hands raised in a gesture of peace. I'm alone, he said. Liam doesn't know I'm here. Mia's eyes narrowed. Then why are you? Because someone needs to tell you the truth. And it can't be him. I already know the truth. I lived it. You know part of it. Ethan took a careful step forward. But there's more. About why Liam couldn't feel the bond. About what happened 6 months ago. Despite herself, Mia's interest stirred. I'm listening. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. 3 weeks before the harvest moon ceremony, Liam was poisoned. Mia blinked. What? Someone slipped wolfsbane into his wine. Not enough to kill him, just enough to dull his senses. His connection to his wolf. His ability to feel certain things. Ethan's gaze was steady. We kept it quiet. Didn't want to show weakness. But the effects lasted months. Mia's heart lurched. Are you saying? I'm saying that when you felt the mate bond during the ceremony, he physically couldn't. The poison suppressed it. Ethan's voice softened. He's not blameless, Mia. He still condemned you without investigating properly. But the reason he didn't recognize you as his mate wasn't indifference. It was sabotage. The information crashed over her like a wave. Poison. Someone had poisoned the Alpha King. Who? She asked quietly. We don't know yet. The investigation is ongoing. Ethan took another step. But Liam wanted you to know. He's been trying to figure out how to tell you himself, but he's terrified you won't believe him. That you'll think it's just an excuse. Mia turned away, her mind racing. This changed things. Not everything. Liam had still failed to question the evidence, still dismissed her with barely a glance, but it explained the bond. Why he hadn't felt it. Why there'd been no recognition in his eyes. He's miserable, Mia, Ethan said quietly. I've known him 15 years, and I've never seen him like this. He's barely sleeping. Barely eating. The bond is killing him. Good, Mia said, but there was no conviction in it. Is it? Is that really what you want? She didn't answer. Because truthfully, she didn't know anymore. Revenge had seemed so simple in the throne room. Reject him. Walk away. Let him suffer the way she'd suffered. But actually doing it? Actually feeling his pain through the bond every single day? It was destroying her too. I'm not asking you to forgive him, Ethan said. I'm just asking you to hear him out. Let him explain. Then make your decision. And if I say no, then I go back and tell him that. And he'll respect it. Ethan's voice was firm. But at least you'll have all the information. At least your choice will be fully informed. Mia closed her eyes. The sensible part of her screamed to refuse. to protect herself, to stay far away from the man who'd broken her. But another part, the part that had felt the bond sing when their eyes met, the part that recognized him as hers even when he didn't recognize her, that part whispered something else. Listen. Just listen. One conversation, she said finally. Here. Neutral ground. And if I don't like what I hear, he leaves and never comes back. Ethan's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I haven't forgiven anything. I know. But you're giving him a chance. That's more than he deserves. After Ethan left, Mia sat by the stream and stared at her reflection. She looked different now. Stronger. Sharper. Like someone who'd been forged in fire and come out tempered steel. But underneath, she was still the woman who'd stood in that judgment hall and felt her heart break when the man who was supposed to be her everything looked right through her. Could she really face him again? Could she survive it if she did? The bond pulsed. And despite everything, despite the pain and anger and betrayal, she felt something she thought had died in that throne room. Hope. Dangerous, terrifying, beautiful hope. Liam received Ethan's message at dawn. She'll see you. Tomorrow at sunset. Come alone. His hands shook as he read it. She'd agreed. After everything, the condemnation, the rejection, the weeks of silence, she was giving him a chance. Don't waste it, Ethan said, appearing in the doorway. This is probably the only one you'll get. I know. Do you? Because you can't just apologize and expect her to fall into your arms. She's not some Omega to be commanded. She's a Veritas. She'll see right through any bullshit you try to feed her. I'm not going to lie to her. Good. Because even if you wanted to, you couldn't. Ethan crossed his arms. So, what are you going to say? Liam stared out the window at the rising sun. What could he say? I'm sorry felt inadequate. I didn't know felt like an excuse. Please forgive me felt like begging. And yet, all of it was true. I'm going to tell her the truth, Liam said quietly. All of it. What happened? Why I failed. What she means to me now. He turned to face his beta. And then I'm going to let her decide. And if she still rejects you? Liam's chest ached at the thought. Then I'll spend the rest of my life knowing I lost the most important person I'll ever meet because I was too blind to see her when it mattered. Ethan studied him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. That's the first intelligent thing you've said in weeks. The next day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Liam tried to work. Tried to focus on reports and council meetings and the 1,000 other responsibilities of being Alpha King. But his mind kept drifting to the forgotten woods. To Mia. To the conversation that would determine the rest of his life. As sunset approached, he changed into simple clothes, no crown, no formal robes, nothing that screamed authority. Just him. Just a man about to face the woman he'd wronged. The woman who was his mate. Charlotte appeared as he was preparing to leave. Your Majesty, a word? Make it quick. I've spent time with Miss Castellan. Enough to know that she's not someone who forgives easily. But she's also not cruel. Charlotte's expression was thoughtful. If you're honest with her, truly honest, she'll hear you. She might not accept it, but she'll hear you. And if honesty isn't enough, then nothing will be. But at least you'll have tried. Liam nodded, throat tight. He left the palace as the sun touched the horizon, traveling alone on horseback into the eastern forests. Every mile closer made the bond pull stronger, like his heart was finally finding its rhythm after months of being out of sync. She was close. Gods, she was so close. He found the clearing just as the last rays of sunlight filtered through the trees. And there she was. Mia stood beside a stream, her back to him, long hair loose around her shoulders. She'd changed since the throne room, looked wilder, freer, like she'd shed the skin of the prisoner and found herself underneath. She was breathtaking. Liam dismounted, his heart in his throat. Mia. She turned slowly. Their eyes met. And the bond ignited. Both of them gasped. The severed connection roared back to life, not fully healed, but there, screaming that they belonged together, that this distance was wrong, that they were meant to be one. Liam took a step forward. Mia held up a hand. Stay there. He froze. You get one chance, she said, her voice steady, but her eyes bright with emotion. Say what you came to say. Then I'll decide if you deserve anything more. Liam nodded and began to speak. You were right, he said quietly. About everything. I condemned you without investigating. I dismissed you without even really looking at you. I failed you in the worst possible way. He paused. But I need you to understand why. Ethan told me about the poison. Then you know I couldn't feel the bond. Liam's voice cracked. But that's not an excuse. Poison or no poison, I should have questioned the evidence. Should have demanded proof. Should have seen you. He took a breath. And I didn't. Because I was arrogant. I thought my judgment was infallible. That my system was perfect. That an omega couldn't possibly matter in the grand scheme of things. Tears slipped down Mia's cheeks, but she didn't look away. I was wrong, Liam continued. About all of it. You mattered. You matter. More than I ever imagined. He pressed a hand to his chest. And now I feel it. Every second of every day. The bond telling me that I found my other half and destroyed her before I even knew what I had. So, what do you want from me? Mia asked, her voice shaking. Forgiveness? Absolution. No, Liam's eyes were fierce. I want a chance to earn you. Not because of the bond. Not because of duty or fate or anything else. But because you choose me. Because I prove to you that I can be the man you deserve. Silence fell. The stream babbled. The wind whispered through the trees. And two broken people stood in the fading light, connected by a bond that refused to die. Finally, Mia spoke. I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Her voice was soft, but firm. But I'm willing to try. To see if the man you're claiming to be is real. To see if we can build something from these ruins. Liam's breath caught. You mean? I mean, I'm not rejecting you again. But I'm not accepting you either. Mia stepped closer. You're going to court me, Alpha King. Properly. Like I'm someone who matters. Like I'm your equal. And if you prove you've changed, then maybe we can talk about the bond. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was hope. And hope was everything. I'll spend every day proving it, Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. However long it takes. Mia smiled, tentative, fragile, but real. Then you'd better start now. 3 weeks. That's how long Liam had been courting her. And courting was an understatement. Every morning, he arrived at her forest shelter with breakfast, fresh bread, fruit, sometimes wildflowers he'd picked along the way. He never stayed longer than she allowed. Never pushed. Never demanded. He just showed up. They talked. About everything. About his childhood, lonely despite the crown. About her mother, who died protecting her secret. About the kingdom, the corruption they were rooting out, the changes he was making. About themselves. Slowly, carefully, Mia began to see the man beneath the crown. He was brilliant but burdened. Strong but surprisingly vulnerable. He carried the weight of an entire kingdom on his shoulders and had forgotten, somewhere along the way, that he was allowed to be human too. She understood that. Because she'd spent her whole life trying to be invisible, and had forgotten she was allowed to be seen. Tell me about the Veritas bloodline, Liam asked one afternoon as they sat by the stream. Ethan found references in old texts, but they're vague. Mia trailed her fingers through the water. We're truth-bringers. Born every few generations to balance the scales. When lies and corruption grow too thick, when justice fails, we emerge. She paused. My mother said it was both a gift and a curse. Because truth is a weapon that cuts everyone, including the wielder. Is that why she sealed your power? She was afraid. Mia's voice softened. Afraid of what people would do if they knew what I was. Veritases have been hunted, killed, used as weapons. She wanted me to have a normal life. But you can't seal fate forever. No, you can't. Mia looked at him. Cold water broke the seal. All that injustice, all that suffering, my power woke up because it couldn't not wake up. It was either surface or let me break completely. Liam's jaw tightened. I put you there. Yes. Don't apologize again. Mia's voice was gentle but firm. I know you're sorry. You've shown me. But some things can't be fixed with apologies. They have to be fixed with action. Then tell me what action to take. Mia considered. Keep changing the system. Keep questioning. Keep making sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else. She met his gaze. That's how you make it right. Something shifted in Liam's expression, determination mixed with something that looked almost like love. I will, he promised. I am. And he was. Because during those 3 weeks, word spread through the kingdom of the Alpha King who'd admitted his mistakes, who'd pardoned an innocent woman, who was reforming the justice system, demanding evidence, questioning witnesses, who was, for the first time in years, truly leading. But not everyone was happy about it. The poison that had dulled Liam's senses 6 months ago hadn't been random. Someone had wanted him weakened, had wanted his judgment compromised, and that someone was about to make their move. It happened on the 23rd day. Liam was traveling to the forest when his horse suddenly reared, spooked by something in the underbrush. He managed to stay mounted, but barely. Then the arrows came. 3 of them, whistling through the air with deadly precision. Liam's wolf surged forward, lending him inhuman speed. He dodged 2 arrows, but the third grazed his shoulder, tearing through fabric and skin. He wheeled his horse around, scanning the trees. 6 figures emerged from the shadows. Rogues, by the look of them wolves without packs, hired muscle with dead eyes. The leader, a scarred man with a crossbow, smiled coldly. Nothing personal, King. Just business. Who sent you? Liam demanded. Does it matter? You'll be dead either way. They attacked. Liam fought like a man possessed. His wolf was stronger, faster, better trained. But 6 against 1 was difficult odds even for an Alpha King. He took down 2, wounded a third. But 1 got behind him. Liam sensed it too late, turned just as the blade descended, and froze as the attacker suddenly screamed. The rogue dropped his weapon, clawing at his own head. No, I didn't mean to, he collapsed, sobbing. The children. Gods, the children, I'm sorry. Another attacker staggered, his face twisting in agony. Make it stop. Liam turned. Mia stood at the edge of the clearing, eyes blazing gold, power radiating from her like heat from a forge. She'd felt his danger through the bond. And she'd come. Drop your weapons, she said, her voice ringing with command and truth. Or I'll show you every sin you've ever committed. Every person you've hurt. Every life you've destroyed. I'll make you feel it all at once until your mind shatters. 3 more rogues collapsed, their minds assaulted by the weight of their own guilt. Only the leader remained standing, his face pale but defiant. You can't, you're just an Omega. I'm a Veritas, Mia corrected. And you're going to tell us exactly who hired you. Her power lashed out. The leader's defenses crumbled like wet paper. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened. Margaret, he gasped. Head Elder Margaret. She paid us. Said the king was getting too soft. Too dangerous. That he needed to be removed before he destroyed everything she'd built. Liam's blood went cold. Margaret. The woman who'd presided over Mia's trial. Who'd called for her conviction. Who'd stood beside him for 5 years, trusted, respected. A traitor. She's the one who poisoned you, Mia said quietly, reading the truth in the rogue's fractured mind. 6 months ago. She wanted you weakened. Wanted to control you. And when that didn't work, she framed me to create chaos. To make you doubt yourself. Why? Liam breathed. Power. She's been embezzling from the treasury for years. Selling kingdom secrets. You were starting to ask questions, so she needed you distracted. Discredited. Mia's eyes blazed brighter. She never expected me to be her mate. Never expected my power to surface. She's been trying to fix her mistake ever since. Everything clicked into place. The convenient evidence against Mia. The witnesses who'd testified so confidently. The perfect storm of accusations that had condemned an innocent woman. All orchestrated. All Margaret. Where is she now? Liam demanded. The rogue's face twisted. The palace. She's planning to flee tonight. Before you figure it out. Liam looked at Mia. We have to go. Now. She raised an eyebrow. I can't do this without you. His voice was raw. Your power is the only thing that can make her confess. The only thing that can prove the truth. Mia hesitated. This was it. The moment where she chose safety or justice. Distance or partnership. Herself or them. The bond hummed, patient and hopeful. Fine, she said. But we do this together. As equals. Liam's eyes softened. Always. They reached the capital at dusk. Liam had sent word ahead to Ethan, who'd quietly locked down the palace. No one in or out. Margaret was trapped, though she didn't know it yet. She was in her quarters, packing, when they found her. The head elder looked up as the door opened, her expression shifting from surprise to calculation in an instant. Your Majesty. I wasn't expecting. Where are you going, Margaret? Liam asked coldly. Visiting my sister. She's ill. The lie rolled smoothly off her tongue. I would have informed you, but it was sudden. Interesting. Mia stepped forward. Because your sister died 3 years ago. Margaret's eyes narrowed. Who do you think you are to? I'm the woman you tried to destroy. Mia's power began to glow. And I'm about to return the favor. Margaret's face went white. No, you can't. Tell them the truth, Mia commanded. Tell them everything. The power struck like lightning. Margaret staggered, her carefully constructed walls crumbling. Words poured out: the poison, the embezzlement, the frame-up, the hired assassins. Every secret. Every lie. Every betrayal. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing as years of corruption spilled into the open. Ethan and 3 guards stood witness, their faces grim. When it was over, Margaret looked up at Liam with hollow eyes. I gave you everything. 5 years of service. And you threw it away for reforms. For fairness. She spat the word like a curse. You were supposed to be strong. Ruthless. Instead you became weak. No, Liam said quietly. I became better. He gestured to the guards. Take her to the dungeons. She'll stand trial for treason, attempted murder, and conspiracy. A real trial. With actual evidence and witnesses who aren't paid to lie. As they dragged Margaret away, her screams echoing down the corridor, Liam turned to Mia. Thank you, he said simply. For coming. For using your power. For saving your life? Mia's lips quirked. You're welcome. For trusting me. His voice dropped. I know how hard that was. Mia stepped closer. Close enough that she could feel his warmth. Close enough that the bond between them sang. You've been proving yourself, she said softly. For weeks. Showing up. Listening. Changing. I'd be a fool to ignore that. Does that mean? It means I'm tired of fighting the bond. Mia reached up, touching his face. It means I forgive you. Not because you're perfect. But because you're trying. Because you admitted you were wrong. Because you let me be angry and hurt, and you still showed up every single day. Liam's eyes burned. Mia. And it means, she continued, her own voice thick with emotion, that I choose you. Not because fate decided it. But because I decide it. Because I want the man I've come to know these past weeks. The real you. The one who's flawed and human and trying so damn hard to be better. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She smiled through tears. But you're getting me anyway. Liam pulled her close, and the bond exploded with joy. The severed connection healed in a rush of golden light. Everything that had been broken, damaged, rejected, it all snapped back into place, stronger than before because it had been chosen, not just accepted. They were whole. together. Finally, Liam kissed her like a man who'd been drowning and had just found air. Mia kissed him back like a woman who'd been lost and had finally come home. And in that moment, surrounded by the ruins of conspiracy and the promise of new beginnings, two people who'd been broken found themselves remade. Not despite their scars, but because of them. 6 months later, the harvest moon ceremony looked different this year. The bonfire still blazed in the center of the clearing. The pack still gathered in celebration. Music still filled the air, laughter and howls blending under a sky full of stars. But everything had changed. Mia stood at the edge of the celebration, watching couples dance, children play, elders share stories. A year ago, she'd stood in almost this exact spot and felt the mate bond ignite for the first time. A year ago, she'd been invisible. Now, she wore a dress of deep blue that caught the firelight, her hair braided with silver threads. Around her neck hung a pendant, the mark of the Veritas, reclaimed and worn openly. No more hiding. No more shame. She was exactly who she was meant to be. There you are. Mia turned to find Liam approaching, 2 cups of spiced cider in his hands. He looked different too, lighter somehow. The weight he'd carried had eased, replaced by something that looked suspiciously like happiness. He handed her a cup, his fingers brushing hers. Even after 6 months, the bond still sparked at every touch, still sang with joy at their closeness. Hiding from your own party? He teased. Our party, she corrected. And I'm not hiding. Just remembering. Liam's expression softened. He knew what she meant. This ceremony, this place, it held both their beginning and their worst moment. Regrets? He asked quietly. Mia considered. About what happened? Yes, about where we ended up. She smiled. Not even a little. Because the past 6 months had been transformative. Margaret had stood trial and been convicted on all counts. Her network of corruption had been exposed and dismantled. 12 other officials had been removed from power, their crimes brought to light by Mia's gift. The justice system had been reformed. Every case from the past 3 years reviewed. 17 wrongful convictions overturned. 17 lives restored. And Coldwater had been demolished. The stones repurposed to build a memorial garden in the capital, a place where anyone who'd suffered injustice could come and remember. Could heal. Leah had been the first to visit. She'd brought flowers and cried for an hour. Then she'd hugged Mia and whispered, "You didn't just save us. You changed everything." Ivy had found work in the capital as a seamstress. She was thriving, her smile genuine now instead of forced. Others had scattered across the kingdom, rebuilding their lives, carrying the knowledge that someone had fought for them. That justice, however delayed, had finally come. "Dance with me," Liam said, pulling Mia from her thoughts. Here? In front of everyone. Especially in front of everyone. His eyes sparkled. "I want the whole kingdom to see how much I love my mate." Mia's heart squeezed. He said it so easily now, love. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Maybe it was. She took his hand, and he led her to the center of the clearing. The music shifted, slowing to something soft and sweet. Other couples made room, smiling as their alpha king pulled his mate close. They swayed together, the bond humming contentedly between them. "I have something for you," Liam murmured against her hair. "You've already given me everything." "Not everything." He pulled back slightly, reaching into his pocket. "This belonged to my mother. And her mother before her. It's tradition to give it to your mate when you're certain, absolutely certain, that you've found your forever." He opened his palm. A ring sat there, delicate silver carved with moon phases, a single sapphire at its center that seemed to hold starlight. Mia's breath caught. "I know we're already bonded," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. "I know the mate bond is permanent. But I want you to have this. I want you to know that beyond fate, beyond destiny, beyond anything the moon goddess decided, I choose you. Every day, every moment, for the rest of my life." Tears spilled down Mia's cheeks. "Liam." Mia Castellan, love of my life, keeper of truth, the woman who saved me from myself, will you marry me? The clearing had gone silent. Everyone was watching, waiting. Mia looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the life spread before them like an unwritten book. A year ago, she'd been a prisoner in chains. Now she was free, powerful, loved. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times yes. Liam slid the ring onto her finger, and the crowd erupted in cheers. He kissed her as the pack celebrated around them, the bond blazing so bright it felt like the sun had risen at midnight. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless and grinning, Ethan appeared with a knowing smile. Congratulations, the beta said. Though I'll point out that I called this 6 months ago. You did not, Liam protested. I absolutely did. I told you the day she rejected you that if you groveled hard enough, she might give you another chance. I did not grovel. You absolutely groveled, Mia interjected, laughing. I showed appropriate remorse and dedication. You brought her flowers every day for 3 weeks straight, Ethan deadpanned. That's groveling. That's courtship. Mia and Ethan exchanged glances and burst out laughing. Liam tried to look offended but couldn't maintain it. His grin broke through, warm and genuine. This was happiness. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of people who loved you despite it. Who saw your flaws and chose you anyway? Who stood beside you through darkness and celebrated with you in the light? Later that night, when the celebration had wound down and most of the pack had dispersed, Mia and Liam walked through the memorial garden. Moonlight painted the stone pathway silver. Flowers bloomed in carefully tended beds, each one planted by someone who'd been freed, healed, vindicated. They stopped at a bench near the center, where a plaque read, "For those who suffered in silence. May your voices finally be heard." Mia traced the words with her fingertips. Do you ever wonder what would have happened? Liam asked quietly. If the seal hadn't broken? If you'd never revealed your power? Sometimes. Mia leaned against him. I think I would have died in cold water. Quietly. Forgotten. She paused. But I also think that maybe it was supposed to happen this way. The suffering, the awakening, all of it. Because pain has a purpose. It teaches us, changes us, makes us into people who can help others facing the same darkness. You've helped so many. We've helped so many. She looked up at him. You reformed the system. I just revealed the truth. We did it together. Liam kissed her forehead. Together. Always. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the moon rise higher. I got a letter from my aunt yesterday, Mia said eventually. My mother's sister. She heard about what happened and reached out. Turns out there are 3 other Veritas bloodlines still active. Hidden, but alive. You're not alone. I'm not alone, she agreed, smiling. In so many ways. Because she'd found family in Leah and Ivy and the other survivors. She'd found purpose in her gift. She'd found love in the last place she'd expected. And she'd found herself, the real her, the one who'd been buried under fear and shame and other people's expectations. What do you want to do? Liam asked. With your power? With the future. Mia considered. I want to travel. Visit other packs. Help them build better systems. Use my gift to root out corruption before it destroys lives. She glanced at him. And I want to train other Veritases. Teach them they don't have to hide. That their power is a gift, not a curse. That sounds perfect. You'd be okay with me traveling? Liam smiled. Mia, I fell in love with your strength. Your independence. Your absolute refusal to be anything other than yourself. I'm not going to try to cage that now. He squeezed her hand. Besides, I have a kingdom to run. And you have a world to change. We'll make it work. What about heirs? The council's going to start pressuring you. The council can wait. We have time. His expression grew serious. And when we do have children, if we do, they'll grow up knowing that their mother is a force of nature. That she changed a kingdom. That she never let anyone tell her she was less than extraordinary. Mia's eyes burned with fresh tears. How did I get so lucky? Lucky? Liam laughed softly. Mia, you were condemned, imprisoned, and rejected. If that's luck, I'd hate to see cursed. But it led me here. To you. To this. She gestured at the garden, the palace beyond, the life they'd built from ruins. And I wouldn't change any of it. Because the woman who walked into that judgment hall in chains? She wouldn't have survived this. Wouldn't have been strong enough. But the woman who walked out of Coldwater? She's unstoppable. You always were unstoppable. You just didn't know it yet. They sat together under the stars, two people who'd been broken and remade, whose love story had started with betrayal and ended with redemption. And in the distance, in villages and camps and hidden corners of the kingdom, people who'd been silenced were finally finding their voices. Because Mia had shown them it was possible. That truth, however buried, eventually rises. That justice, however delayed, eventually comes. And that sometimes, the people who are dismissed, overlooked, forgotten, they're the ones who change everything. 3 years later. The courtroom was packed. Mia stood at the front, dressed in formal robes that marked her as the kingdom's first official truth keeper, a position created specifically for Veritas's. Behind her sat a young woman accused of theft, her face pale but hopeful. The evidence against her was circumstantial. The witnesses questionable. But this time, there would be no rush to judgment. Mia's power flared gently, reading the threads of truth and lie woven through the testimonies. She sorted through them with practiced ease, separating fact from fiction. The accused is innocent, she declared. The real thief is the merchant's son, who framed her to cover his own crimes. I can prove it. She did. The courtroom erupted. The girl wept with relief. Justice was served. Liam watched from the gallery, pride radiating through the bond. This was what they'd built. A system where truth mattered more than convenience. Where the powerless had a voice. Where no one would ever again be condemned because they were easy to dismiss. After the trial, Mia found Liam waiting outside. Another victory, he said, pulling her close. Another life saved, she corrected. They walked home together through streets that had once felt like a prison, but now felt like possibility. That night, as they lay tangled together in their chambers, Mia's hand drifted to her stomach. I have news, she said softly. Liam propped himself up on one elbow, eyes curious. Good news. The best. She smiled, nervous and excited and terrified. We're going to have a baby. Liam's face transformed, shock giving way to pure, incandescent joy. A baby, he breathed. We're having a baby. Are you happy? Happy? He laughed, the sound thick with emotion. Mia, I'm terrified. I'm overwhelmed. And I'm happier than I've ever been in my entire life. He kissed her, gentle and reverent, his hand covering hers over their child. Boy or girl, he asked. Too early to tell. But Mia's eyes sparkled. I have a feeling she's going to be just like me. Stubborn. Powerful. Completely unstoppable. Then the world better watch out. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, the bond humming with contentment, their future bright with promise. Epilogue. 25 years later, in a judgment hall rebuilt on principles of truth and justice, a young woman with her mother's eyes and her father's strength stood before a council. She was the kingdom's second Veritas. The first to be trained properly. The first to grow up knowing her power was a gift. Her name was Luna. And when an innocent man was brought before her in chains, falsely accused, overlooked because he was convenient to condemn, she smiled. Because she knew exactly what to do. Her mother had taught her well. Truth always rises. Justice always comes. And the dismissed, the forgotten, the underestimated. They change everything. I'm sobbing. What did you think? Did Mia and Liam's story wreck you like it wrecked me? Drop a comment with your favorite moment, and if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you even doing? Hit that button and join our pack, because we've got so many more stories coming your way. Where are you watching from? Let me know below. Thank you for being here, for feeling this with me, for believing in second chances and the power of truth. You're all amazing. See you in the next story.
Don't. Ella cut him off. Couldn't hear him finish that sentence. Just don't. She looked at the documents, at the evidence of systematic betrayal, at the carefully constructed trap designed to destroy her children. And she made a decision. I'm withdrawing from the summit. Her voice was steady. I'm taking Luna and Ash and leaving Pact territory. Disappearing. If I'm not there to challenge, they can't demand execution. Can't make examples. Can't, they'll hunt you, Stellan interrupted. Declare you rogue. Send enforcers. You'll spend the rest of your life running. And Luna and Ash will grow up as fugitives. Hunted. Unsafe. Never able to claim their birthright. Better alive and fugitive than dead and vindicated. Is it? Aiden's question was soft. Because that's not the lesson we want to teach them. That running is the answer when systems fail. That hiding is safer than standing. That fear wins. I'm not teaching them anything if they're dead. And you're teaching them nothing valuable if they survive by running. Aiden's composure cracked. Ella, I know you're terrified. I'm terrified. The thought of losing them, his voice broke completely. But running means they never get to be themselves. Never get to live openly. Never get to change the world the way you have. They become exactly what Saris wants, moon-marked wolves who hide, who diminish themselves, who live in fear. I don't care about symbolism right now. I care about survival. Then survive by winning, by standing, by proving that even when threatened with the worst, you choose courage over fear. He moved closer. We can win this. Together. But only if you're willing to fight instead of run. Ella looked at him. At Stellan. At the council members, watching with varying expressions of fear and determination. If I stay, if I fight, and we lose, my children die. That's the cost of your courage. If you run, Reformation dies. Every moon-marked wolf becomes a target. Everything we've built collapses. Aiden's voice was gentle despite the words. There's no safe choice here. Just, which principles do we die for? If dying becomes necessary. The calculation was brutal. Impossible. A choice no parent should ever have to make. But Ella had learned something crucial over the past 5 years. Some choices couldn't be avoided. Could only be faced with as much courage as you could gather. If we do this, if we fight, I need complete honesty. No more protection. No more secrets. No more deciding what I can handle. She looked at Aiden. Everything. Every piece of information. Every risk. Every possibility. No matter how terrible. Agreed. And I lead the defense. My children. My testimony. My strategy. Agreed. And if we win, when we win, things don't go back. We stay separated. We maintain boundaries. We don't let victory erase the reasons we chose autonomy. Aiden's expression flickered with pain, but he nodded. Agreed. Ella took a breath. Then we fight. Together, but separate. Honest, but boundaried. And we prove that love doesn't require partnership. That strength doesn't require unity. That moon-marked wolves can lead without becoming the monsters everyone fears. Together, Aiden echoed. Together, Stellan added. My sister's betrayal, I'll testify against her. Expose her manipulation. Prove that not all moon-marked wolves fear themselves. 2 days, Ella said. We have 2 days to prepare. To build a defense that can't be broken. To demonstrate that even when faced with execution, we choose reason over rage. She looked at the assembled wolves. At the council that had supported her. At the reforms they'd built. At the future hanging in the balance. 2 days, she repeated. Let's make them count. The summit began with tradition. Formal challenges, witnesses, evidence presented in careful order. Saris testified first. Calm. Controlled. Her moon-marked eyes, silver like Ella's, projected authority and reason. I've hidden my power for 40 years, she told the assembled Pax. Not from shame. From necessity. Because I've seen what happens when moon-marked wolves lose control. I've felt the pull of that power. The way it responds to emotion. The way rage becomes fire becomes destruction. She gestured to Luna, sitting between Ella and Aiden. That child nearly killed a packmate. 7 years old and already unable to control what she carries. And you want her to inherit? Want her to lead? Want to trust that adolescence, with all its emotional chaos, won't trigger something catastrophic. The traditionalist Pax murmured agreement. Even some Reformation supporters looked uncertain. Queen Ella claims control, Saris continued. Claims her power serves instead of dominates. But I ask you, how long until emotion overwhelms reason? How long until threat to her children triggers the same rage her daughter showed? How long until we're all ashes because we valued idealism over safety? She turned to face Ella directly. I don't testify from hate. I testify from 40 years of experience. Moon-marked wolves are dangerous. Not because we're evil. Because we're powerful without the centuries of conditioning that teaches control. We're children with weapons. And giving us authority is suicide. The words landed devastatingly. A moon-marked wolf arguing against her own kind. 40 years of hiding presented as wisdom rather than fear. Ella wanted to rage. Wanted to prove every accusation right by demonstrating exactly how dangerous she could be. Instead, she stayed seated. Hands folded. Face calm. Breathing through the fury. Aiden's hand found hers under the table. Brief. Supportive. Then released. Maintaining boundaries even in crisis. The challenge proceeded. Traditionalists presented evidence. Luna's loss of control. Ella's public separation from Aiden. Proof of instability. The conspiracy that had operated for 5 years under Reformation's nose. Every failure magnified. Every success minimized. Then they made their demand. Luna and Ash declared unfit for succession. Ella removed from authority. Moon-marked protections revoked. Return to traditional hierarchies where dangerous bloodlines could be properly controlled. And if Queen Ella refuses? Elder Thorne asked from the High Council's position. The lead traditionalist, an alpha named Garrick, smiled coldly. Then we invoke ancient law. Trial by combat. If she believes moon-marked control is real, let her prove it. Fight without her power. Demonstrate that she's more than the threat she carries. That's barbaric, Ivy protested. That's law, Garrick countered. Old law, but still valid. If she wins without using moon-marked power, we accept Reformation continues. Her children remain heirs. If she loses, he shrugged. The region decides what happens to dangerous bloodlines. Meaning execution. Meaning Luna and Ash would die if Ella lost. I accept, Ella said before anyone could object. Ella, no, Aiden started. I accept the challenge. Trial by combat. No moon-marked power. Just she stood. Just a mother protecting her children. That enough for you? Garrick's smile widened. More than enough. The combat was scheduled for dawn, giving Ella 12 hours to prepare. She spent them with her children. Luna cried. Mama, don't. Please don't. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. This isn't because of you, baby. It's because of wolves who fear change. Who'd rather destroy difference than learn from it. Ella held her daughter close. And I'm going to win. Going to prove that power with control is strength, not threat. What if you don't? Ash's quiet voice. What if you lose? Then your father will protect you. Take you somewhere safe. Raise you to understand, her voice caught. To understand that some things are worth fighting for. even when fighting means risking everything. I don't want you to risk everything, Ash whispered. I want you to stay.